I'm Paul Ewing from the Elkhart Model Railroad Club, and we're up here at the Elkhart Model Railroad Club today. I'm going to do some demonstrations on scenery, kind of the different materials and a couple of the processes, how to do it, along with touch a little bit on static grass. And I mean, we've kind of come a long way from what we did 50 years ago when you used to dye sawdust. And but this is called super leaves. You can use that for ground material or trees. You got a lot of different colors in it. You've got ground foam, and then you've got some just turf of various colors. This is a static grass. So there's a lot of different materials that you can use nowadays. And here's even, you know, if you want to do some flowers, like, you know, a flower field or something, this is like flower material. And here's an example of static grass, which there's a lot of different colors of that. And then the glue that you want to use for putting all this scenery down is, it's diluted white glue. Here's the formula on the front of the container. And so I'll go over some of the process of you know, different materials. But basically you want to start out with your base. You want to paint it. You don't want just the, like if you're using foam, you don't want the blue foam, because what happens is you're going to see a lot of the blue through it. And if you can put a lot more scenery on it, but you don't, you know, so you may want a green or brown, whatever color suits you, but you know, you want to get away from the blue or the green foam that you're using. And so by using some of the different materials, is you basically what you're going to do is just get a little bit sprinkled out onto the, there's a lot of different ways you can sprinkle it around. I mean, it's and then you can use, you know, a lot of different materials blended together. I mean, scenery's not all one color, so I mean, sometimes it's just as easy to get in here and do this. This is what they call super trees, but you can also use it, or super leaves, I'm sorry. You can also use it for ground cover, but mainly they did it for trees, and this is a medium green. So basically I'm, you know, just trying to build up my color here. And a lot of it is you want to decide what you want the area you're working with to look like. Do you want it dark? You want it light? You know, what do you actually want? And then here's some other foliage products. It's or summer lawn, and it's basically, I think it's a ground foam. So we'll sprinkle a little bit of that on, and but that's like I say, you're just kind of building up the area you want. And as you can see, some of the brown is still kind of showing through, but that's typically what scenery looks like. I mean, it's not all, even though your grass, you kind of see some of the brown through the lawn. And if you want more, you just put more on. And then you can also come back and kind of move it around, just kind of flatten it out a little bit. And you can come back and put a little bit of this in there if you want a little bit different look. And so one of the keys to this is you don't want to just put glue on this now, because what's going to happen, I'll show you, if you just put glue on this as without wetting it first, and it just kind of beads up. it clumps up and it's not going to go nowhere, and then it just makes a big mess. So the key to making this so it doesn't all ball up when you put the glue on is you want to use an alcohol water base. I don't know, do we dilute this with water or just straight alcohol?
I use straight alcohol.
Yeah, so straight alcohol, you can get it at Dollar Tree. That's probably the cheapest place to get it. But basically you're going to hold back and you're going to spray this. And it'll ball up a little bit, but you're getting it wet now for when you put the glue on. The glue will spread out. And no matter how wet you get it, I mean, it's going to dry out. It's going to take overnight to dry. But then you come in with your glue, and if you still find it's balling up a little bit, you just spray some more alcohol on it. But this is the solution here, the diluted glue, and then just use a pipette and get some in your, and you're just going through and see how much easier that it all flows right out to where this will then get all this scenery. And right now it doesn't look like much because it's all wet, but by tomorrow when this is all dried out, it'll all look, like you started with. Yeah, but that's all and you can buy spray. This, I believe Woodland Scenics has some spray matte media. You can just spray on this, but I prefer this way. And later on, you're going to maybe stick some little shrubs in here or whatever. You may want to take and put a, let's see, we got some coarser stuff here where you may want to put in some coarser material. This is a spring green coarse material. And there again, if you want like some, clumpy area right here, where it'd be a little pile of something or other. Then again, you'd want to wet it if you wanted to add it too. And then you just, and that might represent a little dirt pile or a little grass pile, in a yard. As this dries, it's all going to come back to this same color. But like I say, you can see why you want to paint your underneath first, because otherwise you're going to get a lot of this showing through. And so that's basically on this type of scenery. If you want to do that. And now we'll do a little bit on the static grass. So for the static grass, you want to use it's a glue all Elmer's glue. You want to use it can be interior or exterior. I don't think it really matters, but you don't want to use what they call school glue because excuse me, it doesn't dry clear. So you get some out here in your cup, and you're just going to paint the area you want to work on. And get it painted on. You want it on a little bit heavy. You don't want to really thin it too much. Okay. Now, on static grass, you have a lot of different lengths. This, I believe, is approximately a 6 millimeter, and you have a 2 millimeter, and you've got a 12 millimeter, and I think there's a 10 millimeter. But your 12 millimeter and 10 millimeter would be like if you wanted to do a field of tall grass. That stands up pretty good. Your average lawn area or just and out in the woods is probably a 6 and a 2 millimeter. So what I like to do is mix a couple different blends together, because grass isn't, all the same color, obviously. And basically what you do then, here's your static grasser. You're going to dump a little bit into the container there, and then put a little bit of this in there, and I'm probably going to need a little more in there. And then just kind of mix it up in together here to get, the longer and shorter together. Obviously you're going to lose some there. But then with the static grass, you have a nail and your alligator clip that you stick down into the glue, and then you push your button onto the thing, and then you just start shaking this around. And you can keep piling it up as much as you want, but as you can see, it's starting to stick up. And then once this all dries, you're going to have a little bit of loose grass, but most of it's going to stick again. And you can add more glue on top of this, like just the thinner glue, and redo your surface. As you can see, I'm building up pretty good. But you kind of keep going over it, and some of the taller grass is sticking up, and I don't know if you can get a tight shot in there where you can see the grass sticking up, but that's what static grass does. It stands up on end. Mm-hmm. And once you let go of the trigger, this thing will shock you. I mean, it's no doubt. So what you want to do is come over here and touch this. Well, wait a minute. See? It'll shock you. I mean, once you let go of the trigger, it's still, this ionizer is still charged up, and maybe 5 minutes later it might not be, but if you come over and touch this thing, it'll give you a jolt. And so that's on the static grass. Is the process is a little bit different than doing your flat scenery. Now we'll do one other thing here as well. If you say, for instance, if this scenery was up on a hill and you're trying to get scenery on here, put your glue on first, so some of it'll stick to the side of the hill. As you drop it down, it's going to stick to that, and then you come back over with the diluted glue and run it down to make everything solid. But that's the only difference between doing it flat and if you're doing it on a hill, is you want to put the glue on first, because obviously if you just put all this on there, it just fall right down. But the glue underneath gives it a little bit to stick to. And I mean, there's no right or wrong way to do scenery. I mean, there's so many different ways that to do scenery. I mean, I've done a lot of different types of scenery up at Chuck's house. We've tried a lot of different things, trial and error, and some work, some don't. You try a different way. But like one of the past members up here, his saying was, it looks like that somewhere, So there's really, I don't think there's a wrong way of doing scenery. I mean, obviously, if you're trying to do a prairie, you don't want, hills and everything else in it, but that's, like I say, what I like to do, a couple different ways of doing the scenery. And but this will take overnight to dry, and once it's dry, you can kind of go over it with a vacuum lightly. And if it needs more scenery, I just repeat the process and do it again. I'm Paul Ewing again from the Elkhart Model Railroad Club. in Elkhart, Indiana.